Hi everyone, welcome to Woolen Spinning. My name is Rachel. It is Tuesday, December 20th, 2022. This is the last episode of 2022, if you can believe it. We have had a crazy year and it has been filled with ups and downs and going sideways, pivoting. What else can we say? It's just been a crazy year. Before I get lots and lots of questions about what sweater I am wearing, this is one of my most favorite sweaters that I've ever made. This is the Jingle by Isabel Kramer. I love her patterns. Thank you so much, Diane. She says she loves this sweater. Thank you. For the fingering weight yarn for the white, it is not hand spun. It was Crafty Jack's Boutique, my dear friend Katrina's yarn, and it was in the her Tough and Tender. Is it Tough and Tender? What does she call her sock yarn? And it was just in the undyed natural colorway. And then for the what are these called? The ornaments, I guess. The ornaments are my hand spun, and it's Kinfolk. I think it's the Parrot colorway, but my memory is probably wrong. if I do say so myself. It's kind of been one of those days, which I will elaborate on in just a moment. It is, and unfortunately Kylan's not really dyeing anymore. I didn't even put the colorway in my project page. I'm pretty sure it's the Parrot colorway. But regardless, it is one of my favorite colorways, and Kylan did just a beautiful job. And I really hope that one day Kylan will go back to dyeing. She's had some health problems and she's been on chemo and whatnot. She's starting to make a recovery, and I hope that she gets back to dyeing because she is so talented. So anyways, that is what I'm wearing. It is my Christmas sweater. I love it. The reason why I haven't worn it that much this year, normally I would wear it for all of the live streams throughout the month. It's actually coming unraveled a little bit and I need to fix it, and I just haven't had a chance. So one day soon over the holidays, I hope I'll be able to fix it for next year. So, oh, Kelly, it's so good to see you. Baby's asleep, so she was able to come. So we have had quite the 24 hours. Everybody in the cul-de-sac, all of our dear friends, they are all outside right now. They are watching my children for me. They've got their dogs out there. They're running around like crazy. And the reason is because we have had over 1.5 feet of snow in the last 24 hours. Now, for those of you who live in areas that get a lot of snow and are used to having a very snowy winter, you're like, yeah, so, but we don't get this amount of snow, and we don't get it in such a short period of time. And there's this thing called snow removal. And our townships seem to not be able to do that very well. And this is actually the 10th most snow, like the 10th highest snowfall, whatever, that we've had in Vancouver. And of course the whole province got it. The island got hit really badly. My brother and sister-in-law are snowed in. So yeah, just lots going on. I did venture out in it this morning to take James. He's in a coding camp, like for computer coding. And I got him there this morning. It's only 5 minutes from our house, but you do have to drive because I've got to go over the freeway. And then I was able to pick him up and bring him home, and he was over the moon. He kept saying thank you that I had made the effort to get him there and to take him. Thankfully, I have an excellent vehicle in the snow. It is very heavy, and I've got proper winter tires. So, and I'm very confident in the snow. I'm from up north. It's not a big deal. The problem is the lack of snow removal. That's the problem. So anyhow, it's been a crazy couple of weeks. So yeah, Kelly says, I saw Katrina's photos this morning. The snow is nuts. Tessa says the standing joke is that rain in the Vancouver snow is... Tessa's from Burnaby, which is the next city over from me, or actually it's 2 cities over from me, but here in the greater Vancouver area of British Columbia. Tessa says the standing joke is that rain is the Vancouver snow removal plan. She is so right. Basically, they always just say, well, it's going to rain, so why bother? But the problem is that more and more often these last few years, especially with global climate change and whatnot, we're not getting rain. So we need to like do this thing called move the snow. Anyhow, so thank you so much for being here. If you are a new viewer to the show and you are new to Woolen Spinning, welcome. I hope that you find something that you are looking for here. If you're a returning viewer, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Hit that notification button. I would really appreciate it. And for those who are patrons of the community, you guys are the ones that keep the lights on here at Woolen Spinning year after year, month after month. And I want to say an extra special thank you to those of you, you know who you are, who are patrons of the community. Even if it's just a couple of dollars a month, really, honestly, truly, it makes a huge difference. So thank you so much. It's good to see everybody. A couple people were sharing what they're working on. Charlotte has just dyed 2 contrasting colors of hand spun for the Storm cardigan. Jackie's testing a jumper for Bloom Handmade Studios. That's really exciting. Mostly in commercial yarn. Simple color work with some embroidery to be added later. That's really cool. Diane says, I'm knitting some Christmas socks and they'll be done by next Christmas. And Christine shares, I'm just finished my one and only handmade Christmas present and have started another muscle burrow hat using some yarn I've had in the stash for ages and ages. That's awesome, you guys. So we have a huge show today. I wanted to share with you some of the things that I've been working on. I have 2 new cast-ons because this is actually new. I'll share, don't worry. And I actually have a new spin, so I thought that I would share that with you. I have a copious amount of community participation this year to share with you. Sorry, this episode to share with you. I'm hoping that we get through it, that the kids don't interrupt us, so fingers crossed. And I also have a little PowerPoint to share with you guys about sort of how the year went in general. We did our year-end reflections vlog over on Patreon. If you want to check that out and have a look at that, it's available for everyone. But for those of you, but I wanted to do sort of something here as well to sort of just commemorate the end of the year and the year coming to a close, because we have had, it's been a few years of crazy. So, and I know we've all experienced it, and it's been a lot for everybody. And I think, you know, it's just important to take stock and take a step back and just see where we've come and what the challenges were and what's gone well. So without further ado, let's get into the show, and I will see you guys on the other side. All right, so what I thought we would do is we would start with my projects and what I'm working on. I'll go to a different screen in just a moment, but I've got 4 things that I'm working on. One of those things normally would be saved for Welford Weaves, but it's the end of the year and we're kind of finished our Welford Weaves for the year. There'll be new episodes coming out in January, but I wanted to share with you this one project that I've thrown on my looms because it goes along with a pattern announcement that'll be coming out on Saturday, on Christmas Eve, December 24th. So I'll share that with you guys. So let's move over to our other camera, just because it's a little bit easier for you guys to see what I'm working on. So this first project, I actually posted this in the Slack channel, and I said, I think I'm gonna make this, and it's called the Dama Hat. It's by Amy Christoffers, and I love her patterns. You guys know how much I love Amy. I just think she's wonderful. And I went into my stash, and I'll show you a photo of the pattern in just a minute because I'm kind of small right now, so it's a little bit hard to see something in this little screen. But this yarn I wanted to mention, I talked about this yarn in the Wool Circle back in June of 2021, and I have linked the Wool Circle episode in the show notes for you guys. I'll throw it into chat for those who are part of the Wool Circle tier. And I had this gifted to me from Sam, who I don't think is here today. She might be in bed. It's a bit late in Wales. Maybe she'll join us in a little bit. And this was some badger-faced Welsh mountain. It's got Kemp in it. It's a little bit toothier. And I had kind of spun it up I really loved the yarn. I loved how it finished. I loved what it looked like. I combined all of the colors that Sam had gifted to me. I put the blacky brown in there. I put the gray in there. I put the white in there. I just carded it all up. And I thought, you know, I'm going to spin this. I'm going to apply it together and come what may. So that's what I did. So the resulting yarn is about 150, maybe a little bit more of this sort of, you know, grayish, creamy white yarn. Like I said, there's a lot of Kemp in it and lots of heathering, but overall it reads as a very, very, very light gray, almost creamy white. And I thought, you know, I was going through my stash looking for a contrast color, and I thought, you know what, I've hung on to this long enough, I am going to use it. So I meant to actually include an actual photo of the pattern, like of what this looks like for you, but I had posted on Slack that I was gonna make this, and Lisa, who I don't think she's here yet today, but Lisa was like, yes. And red is not a great color on me. I wear it a little bit just as like accents here and there, but it's not my best color. And so I don't know what I was thinking, but I went and grabbed a ball of red out of my stash. And I started knitting, and then I got like halfway through the first chart, through the first part of the chart, and I was like, I don't know what I was thinking. Like, why did I pick red? It's not the best color for me, but it's a heathery cranberry kind of colored red. It's from Knit Picks palette. It takes about 200 yards of a fingering weight yarn. You do a ton of ribbing at the beginning on 2.75 millimeter needles, which are US size 2. And the reason for that is because this is actually eventually folded. So this becomes a folded brim, which is so lovely and warm. And the reason why I kept coming back to this pattern again and again and again, and why I just could not let it go, is because there's reindeer. There's reindeer. I just think it is the cutest thing ever. I'm not usually into stuff like this, but I saw this and I just kept coming back to it again and again and again and again. And I just loved it. So Amy, if you ever watch this, which I don't think that you will, but if you do, I just love your patterns. I just love them. I've knit so many of your sweaters. I just love them. So anyways, this is the Dama Hat. I started working on this on the weekend. I started it on Friday night. We've been watching The Hobbit with the kids. We read the book, and we were like, no, they're too young for the movie. Like, it's just too much, blah, 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 blah. And then we actually decided to let our son watch it because he's almost 11. And Common Sense Media says that 10, kids say 10, parents say 10. And so he's been loving it. And so Nora actually has been watching it as well. And she's been totally fine thus far. We just started the second movie. And so I started, and we've been watching like 45 minutes a night because they're like 3-hour movies. And I just started working on it because I was, you know, ribbing for days. And then I started working on the color work. So that is a really fun work in progress. I was hoping it would be done for today, but it's not. But that's okay. It'll be done for Christmas. So getting into my stash, using up hand spun yarns. I keep losing my stitches here. Sorry, guys. And just really, really enjoying this knit. The color work, I should say, the color work is knit on 3.25 millimeter needles, but I actually didn't have any 3.25s that were 16 inches. I had a 3 millimeter though, and I'm such a loose knitter that I was like, oh, it's close enough. So I'm knitting the hat on 3 millimeter or US size 2.5 needles for the color work section. So a little bit bigger for the color work. Just really, really fun. That hat is beautiful. Thank you, Nicole. I just cross-stitched a reindeer. They are sweet. I might have to make that hat, says Dion. So I actually have in my stash, I have a whole bunch of these balls of Knit Picks palette from years gone by when I used to do little ornament stockings that were ornaments in all different colors, greens and white and reds. And I have all of these like single balls. And I have this gorgeous heathered green, and I don't know why I picked this over that, because the green would have been perfect as well. So I'll just have to knit another one. That's my answer. Your coloring is so much like mine, and when I wear this kind of red, and I totally can. So oh, thank you, Eva. You know, you and I are very similar in coloring. You're right, and yeah, it's not a terrible color for us. It's not like that bright Christmas red. You know, this is actually, we can get away with it. It's just not. It doesn't go with anything. Yes, Lisa, I totally agree. Richard Armitage is really good in the Hobbit movies. He makes the whole movie, I think. And actually, it's funny because I have a real soft spot for him. He's one of my absolute most favorite actors. And the reason is because book club, we did North by South. And we had, it just, that was a couple of years ago now. And it generated so much amazing discussion and conversation, and like Becca was just on it with that book with us, and we, oh my goodness, we had such a great time with that book. And funny story, he was the main character in the BBC adaptation from that book, and he was excellent. And I just, oh, I love him. Anyhow, moving on. Oh good, Lisa, Sam, yes, you're here. So it's your yarn, Sam. It was the badger face Welsh Mountain was the contrast color for that toque. And I just thank you again, Sam, for sending that to me. So the second thing that I wanted to share with you, and I am blasting through a little bit quickly because we've got lots to cover today, and we'll go into more depth about these projects, what's working, what's not working, what the badger face is like to knit with, all that kind of stuff. We'll do that in January when we have a little bit more time. But I am very cognizant that the kids are home and it's very cold outside. It's -11 and they're coming in and out. And if they start interrupting a lot because they need me, then my hands are tied. So that's why I'm moving quickly. Pressed flowers. Let's talk about pressed flowers. So I was quite far along. I was through 2 chart repeats, and I was knitting away. And for those who haven't seen this sweater, it's another Amy Christoffers pattern, and I was doing really well with it. And I was knitting it in my Hello Yarn organic Polworth 3-ply spin. I had more than enough yardage for this sweater. I was so far along, and it was all going really well. This is the yarn here. I had yardage. I had checked my yardage when I went to wind this ball, and it was all good. And as I was knitting, I was like, I want to lengthen the body, and I'm going to need to lengthen the sleeves because my arms are long, and I need to lengthen the torso. And I know it's super cold where you guys are in Alberta. I am totally aware of that, you guys. Kelly's saying it's -31 and Nicole's saying it's -37. I hear you. I know it's really cold in other areas of Canada and the US right now. I know. And my it's a tough time of year, right? It's cold, and but the kids are outside, and I need to sort of be aware of where they are and what they're doing. So this organic Polworth, and the more I'm knitting, the more I'm like, you know, I'm going to be cutting it really tight with yardage. And I bet you by the time I get to the second sleeve, I'm going to be playing yarn chicken. And that is never a good place to be. It is never a good feeling. And it starts to really weigh on you the longer you knit, because you're sort of like, well, I know I have the right yardage, enough yardage, but am I going to have enough yardage to make modifications? And it was causing me enough stress. I don't really get stressed about my knitting and my spinning and weaving and stuff. It's like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If I have to rip it out, it's fine. But there's a lot of knitting in this sweater. And so I decided to rip it back to the ribbing. And I started again, but in a different yarn that I have copious amounts of yardage for. So this is West Coast Color. I need to change the what I said there about the yarn, because it is hand spun, but it's not Hello Yarn. It's West Coast Color, and it's actually in her Karma, which is a 50-50 merino yak blend. And that has ended up being the yarn that I've used because I have so much yardage of it. I have about 3 skeins each that are about 300 yards. So more than enough to lengthen the body, lengthen the arms, and just then I have lots and lots and lots to work with. Because otherwise I'm gonna be playing yarn chicken the whole time, and that's not a nice feeling. it doesn't feel great when you have to do that. So this is what the color work is working up to be instead. So it's a little bit darker, a little bit more muted, and a little bit more subtle, but I actually prefer it. From a distance, it's actually a little bit better because if I can get this to focus, because, you know, technology, because of the darkness of it, when you see the flowers, like you can actually see them. Whereas what was happening with the organic Polworth, because it's so gray, it looks fine when you have them side by side like this, but once you start knitting, it's actually really hard to see the contrast. So there was quite a few areas where you really couldn't see the flowers. And I think if you had a really, really bright contrast yarn, or you had white or cream here for your main color, it would work a little bit better. But I like this sort of more muted, and once all the flowers are done and it's knit up, you'll see them. So I ripped it all back and I've started again. Again. So it's new, but it's not new. I will say though, having done this chart now a bajillion times and repeating it so many times, I have it memorized now, and it's not that difficult to memorize. It's actually quite intuitive. You're doing garter stitch all through here, and then you just have to work your flowers. So as long as you know where you are in your pattern, it's really, really intuitive. So I'll talk about more about that in January. The Karma is knitting up beautifully. It's a little bit finer, but it's still making a really lovely fabric. And because it's mosaic knitting and you're slipping stitches, you end up with a double thick fabric basically. And I'm kind of glad that it's a little bit thinner of a yarn, because with the yak content, it's going to be warm. So, and the main color has mohair in it. And so with the mohair and the Corriedale and the merino and the yak, it's going to be warm. So I love the new colors, says Sabella. Thank you. And yeah, the greens are really pretty. I agree, Lisa. Love the colors. So yeah, thank you, you guys. So I started a new spin. Kay Fassett always talks about when he's doing presentations and stuff, he talks about leaving your tools and your work out where you can see it. And so my Kromsky has been sitting in our kitchen, and I thought, well, if I put it right there in the kitchen where I can see it every time I sit down to have a meal, I'll probably be inspired at some point and I'll put something on that wheel. And sure enough, so after a couple of weeks of staring at it, I thought, you know, I think I have the perfect project for that. So this was another gifted fiber. Well, actually, no, that's not true. I bought it, but Glenda was very kind to send it to me. This is actually a blend of 3 different animals. 2 were pure Ryeland sheep, and then the third was a Ryeland Wensleydale cross. And I meant to move my wheel in here to show it to you, but I actually loaded the fiber onto the distaff that you can get for the Kromsky, just to manage the fiber and get it basically out of the way, and which I did. And this is the first bobbin. I've got about 4 ounces of this fiber, and I haven't been doing anything special with the spinning. I left my spinner's control card on my wheel in the other room, which is kind of annoying because I wanted to share it with you. But it's spinning up, not super, super, super fine, but it's not really thick. It'll probably be about a sport weight, maybe 14 wraps per inch, maybe 16 wraps per inch, depending on how tightly I apply. And I'm just really enjoying this relatively mindless spin. It's really quite lovely. The fiber is actually a very rich dark brown. It's reading here. This is more like what it's like, so maybe I should hold it up here. It's reading, it wasn't reading as dark, but if I put it in front of my face here, you can see how fine those singles are. They're not super, super fine. I found the finer I spun and the more twist it needed, it started to feel really, really ropey, and it almost started to get a bit, it's not just wiry, it got crunchy. So I lightened up on the twist a little bit. I am spinning this in double drive, which I do tend to run my minstrel in. And I've just been going by feel and spinning it a little bit on default autopilot, and so far so good. So my default autopilot generally tends to be on the slightly lower twist side for singles, and I'll see what that looks like when I go to ply. If I need to tighten it up the ply just a slight bit, or if I leave it slightly lower twist for a lower twist yarn, just a really, you know, poofy warm, fluffy, woolen type yarn, and that I could use for a toque, or if I tighten it up slightly and maybe I'm thinking a pair of mittens, I'm also thinking a toque as with a contrast color. I'm torn. It's not going to give me tons and tons of yardage, but I think it's going to be really effective whatever I do get out of it. So that's what I've been working on. Yes, those singles look lovely. Thank you, Kelly. Yes, I'm surprised how much I'm enjoying this spin. I kind of had put the fiber aside thinking I would stash it for a while, but I kept looking at it and I kept thinking, maybe I should pull it out. Maybe I should use it. And I'm really glad I didn't end up stashing it. This would have been a fiber actually that I would have probably been tempted to process from the fleeces, only because I don't normally say stuff like that. But the only reason for that is because the Ryelands ended up being a little bit, it's softer than I thought that it was going to be. It's not toothy, there's no guard hairs in it. And with the blend of the three animals, man, it's got a little bit of a sheen to it. It's just lovely. So yeah, I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to try it. So, all right. Okay, we are going to switch gears here a little bit because I'm going to share with you one more thing. And these are my Christmas tea towels that I've been weaving. So we're going to slide a little bit of weaving in here in the middle of the, oh, hi Florence, good to see you, in the middle of the show here because these have already been gifted. So this is a warp that I put on the loom. I wanted to write a pattern that would use Crackle, that would kind of put all of my learning that I've done into like really solidify it for me. So this has been gifted as well. And I took all of the learning that I'd done with Crackle over the course of the fall, basically, and I put a warp on the loom, and this pattern is going to be published on Patreon, and I'll put it on the blog if I can, or I'll put a link to Patreon on the blog. For you guys. So it's a very simple sort of ABCD block, ABCD, 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 super, super simple if you've never done Crackle before. It's 8/2 cotton in the warp, and then 8/2 cotton for the tabby weft, and 8/4 cotton for the pattern weft. So then you get this beautiful sort of interplay of the thicker pattern yarn with the finer 8/2 cotton in the tabby, which is the background, if you weave it in the manner of overshot. And then here in this photo with these whites and golds, I'm actually weaving in classic Crackle. So that's why there's 3 shuttles, and I explain all of that and why you might want to try that in the most recent episode of Welford Weaves. And I think I forgot to put a link to that in the show notes, but I'll try and remember to do that after we're done here. Just to put I'll put a link in for the most recent episode of Welford Weaves, and I talked about these towels, and I talked about what I'd done with them, and that this pattern would be available later this week. So this towel was gifted to the kids' literacy tutor, and then the other 2 that I said were gifted already, those were one for each of the kids' teachers. I'm just looking here to see if I can find Welford Weaves. It's episode 13, and here is the link here. So, and then you can see here down below, it just scrolled through, but I wove off a towel in with just the greens. So I got rid of the gold and the red for a towel and just did the greens, and I have to admit it's my favorite one so far. So I want them cut off so that I can like use them, but I don't think I'll get them done before Christmas Day, but that's okay. They're really pretty regardless. I might use them throughout the winter just to bring a bit of pop to our kitchen. Oh my goodness. So Christine said she doesn't think she's had a rigid heddle out at all this year. I feel ya. I went through years like that before I started floor loom weaving, where my rigid heddle or my table loom, I would put them away and then I wouldn't pull them out. It really started for me in August of 2019. After my dad died and Felicia brought the 4-shaft 45-inch jack over, that was when things really took off for me, and I really started to weave like for reals. I'd been weaving for 3 years up to that point on table looms and rigid heddles and stuff, but when I got the floor loom, that was when things really changed for me. So yeah. So that's the Christmas Crackle Towels. Please have a look at the Welford Weaves episode. I've linked it in the live chat, and I will try to remember to throw it into the show notes. And then watch out on Christmas Eve, December 24th, for the pattern to be released. And if you make it, please make sure you let me know and share photos with me. All right. That was a lot of projects. I'm actually surprised how much I do have going on, because I have felt recently like I don't have anything happening. I'm like, I have nothing to work on. And then I look around and I've got all these things I'm working on. So go figure. I wanted to share with you guys a little bit about sort of how the year went and some of the things that have been going on, like this sort of went on this year. Some of you are new to our community, and when I talk about the community in relation to the podcast, I'm talking about what happens here at the live stream, in the live chat when we're streaming the podcast. I'm talking about the Ravelry group, which has started to become a little bit more active again. I think people are starting to use Ravelry a little bit, and then also the Slack channel. And the Slack channel is where the majority of community happens. There's also community that happens during the Wool Circle, which is hosted by Rebecca twice a month, and there's the live chat that goes with that. So these are kind of all the areas for people that are to be able to join the conversation and to participate. The main places though is the Slack channel, and that's where like the friendships are made, and people have started creating, you know, our Maker Mornings happen twice a month, and people have started hosting extras so that they can join in with one another. So there's all these places that people are meeting and places that people are happening or creating community, but the primary place is sort of on the Slack channel, and then here in the live stream during the live chat. So this is an opportunity for me to sort of be able to share with you some of the things that have been going on behind the scenes for those who maybe aren't as involved yet, or have been involved in the past and want to jump back in, or are thinking about jumping in and haven't done that just yet. So let me just share with you here. So year end, oh my goodness, year end. So I just wanted to, so the rest of today's show is going to be a slightly different format. We're going to talk about sort of how this year went. We're going to spend some time sort of looking back and some of the things that have changed, and some of the things that I decided to do differently, some of the opportunities that have come about as a result, and then a little bit about sort of what's coming in the new year. So I hope you guys are willing to go along on this road with me over the next couple of minutes. So what was the most important thing that I learned this year? So me personally, what did I learn this year? So what I learned was continuing to do the same things that I have been doing for the podcast and for this community we're not going to continue to be sustainable. And I kind of came to this realization back in the spring. It was sort of between March and June. I started to realize that like I just couldn't continue in the way that I had for many years. And so I had to make some changes. And if I didn't make those changes, then I wasn't really sure what was going to happen. But I figured I sort of had until the end of 2022 to make those changes to alleviate some of that strain that I was feeling. And I wasn't feeling burned out, and I wasn't feeling upset or angry about it, but I just knew that things had to change. And I could feel myself becoming more and more fatigued. So as a result, it really forced me to take a step back and to make some changes to some of the virtual meetings that I was hosting on a weekly basis. I was hosting multiple virtual meetings throughout the week for multiple people and multiple groups. And I was really sorry to see those go. And I still really miss them. You know, almost 10 months later, I still am like mourning the loss of those groups. However, it opened the door for Rebecca to come on board. And when I received the email from her back in June asking if I would be open to having a conversation, I felt like this whole world opened up to me. So that was really amazing. So what were some of the best things that happened this year? So I think personally, some of the best things was our year-long breed and color study on Radnor. Katrina had announced that it was going to be her last breed and color study for wool and spinning. She was ready to move on to other things. I know the stress and strain that breed and color study preparation causes. It's a huge study. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of fiber. There's a ton of dyeing. And she's a one-man show as well. And when she said that she felt like she needed to step back, I felt I needed to support her in that. However, this last study that we did over the course of this entire year was awesome, and it was so much fun, and we're going to talk about that more later in the show. Some of the other things that I loved was the maker mornings. We'll talk about those again in a moment, and our community building time together. So that's things like our queries and explorations groups, our spinning staplers, the virtual groups that people have been grassroots movements that have come up and started hosting stuff on their own, weaving group, book club, impromptu Zoom meetings that are like mini maker mornings, Dion, Lisa, Laureline, Becca, just to name a few. I've missed people, I'm sure, who've stepped forward from the woodwork and have taken the reins on that stuff. And you guys, my heart is so full. Thank you so much. The other thing that I think was the absolute best thing of the year personally was the rejuvenation of the wool circle. I was really, I had a really hard time drawing that line in the sand and deciding to no longer host that. It was really, really, really hard for me to say enough is enough and I'm going to take a break over the summer and reassess in the fall. I can tell you right now that after the way that the summer went and some things that happened through the summer, I wouldn't have been able to go back to it in September. There's no way. I still mourn the loss of not doing that live stream. And I also celebrate Rebecca being able to step forward and do that, because I've seen her increasingly come into her own and to shine, and it's been incredible. So that was incredible. Dion says, I'm super glad that Rebecca took it up. Absolutely. Yes. Kelly says 2023 is going to be my year to finally work on my Radnor. I've loved seeing what everybody else did with theirs. It's been very inspiring. I agree, Kelly, and there's no pressure to get it done this year, and you've had your hands full with your little one. It's going to be really exciting to see people continuing to work on some of this stuff, and people still have Breeding Color stashed from previous years, so it's coming out of the woodwork slowly. People are working on their Dorset, and they're working on their Massam and their Jacob. It's been awesome. So our Breeding Color study, again, it was an opportunity to celebrate a new to many breed. It was an opportunity for Katrina to showcase her knowledge and her work and her abilities with color on fiber, and to share that with us. It sparked amazing discussion. There were constant posts in the Slack channel. There's been lots on the Ravelry group as well. There were tons of ideas. I think I might be putting words in your mouth, but Lisa, I think it was you. No, it was Laura that was like, what can we do with Radnor that's not socks? And the ideas that came forward were copious, to say the least. I wove overshot scarves. One of mine is right here, which I'll share that one with you in January. Other people did lots of other are planning to do lots of other stuff. Most people have only finished the spinning to date, and now they're getting ready to start knitting and weaving. It also meant that I could focus on a year-long project with a finished object in mind. So I knew that I was going to weave with my yarns, and it gave me an opportunity to work through that process. I started spinning in January, and I just kept spinning and kept working on them. And I personally really enjoy those deep dives. I really like delving into something and really getting into the nooks and crannies. And I think sometimes that gets lost on the podcast a little bit, because I'm kind of all over the place with my projects, like ping, 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 and this is what I'm working on, ping, 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 But really what I love is really getting into the nitty gritty of something, hence the Crackle study that I've been doing all fall. Hence, working on the first few units of my Ontario Hand Weavers and Spinners Master Weaver. That's where I really, where the rubber hits the road for me, and I really get inspired. So a study like this that goes on all year, I get really excited about. Lisa says, Rebecca is doing great. I'm glad that all worked out so well for everyone, and hosting the Zoom meeting is no trouble. Thank you, Lisa. That's very kind. I really appreciate that. People got really creative about the spinning that they were doing. There was combo drafting and plying, chain plying. People were blending. We'll talk more about that later in the show. And it was also a year of working on something that just brought everyone together. Like, it was just an opportunity for everybody to work on the same thing at the same time, which I find is always really effective no matter what we're doing. 51 Yarns was like that. Breeding Color is always like that every time we have another iteration of it. Whenever we've got sort of an along going on that's actually active, our Spindle Spun Summer is another example. People get really into it and they really pick up that torch, and it's fun. Our Maker Mornings are for our Patreon community. So if you join Patreon, even if it's just $1 a month and you do a custom pledge, Maker Mornings are for you as well. They're bi-monthly gatherings on Zoom. They're for everybody in the Patreon community. So like I said, even if you're only pledging a couple of dollars a month, you are absolutely invited as well. And when we talk about the community, I've already talked about this a little bit. We're talking about the Slack channel and what happens in our Maker Mornings, what happens here in our live streams. It's where much of our connections between members happen, because we can actually see each other and we can hear one another. We can talk to one another. We can ask questions. We can share where we're from. Crystal and Helene figured out that they lived about 15 minutes apart and they got together. Dorothy and Sam just got together in New York City because Sam was traveling from Wales. Sam and Eve have gotten together a couple of times and stayed at Eve's place to visit. I could keep going. All these connections and all of these things, people have figured out that they live just one county over, and it immediately means they've got community, especially with guilds starting to be less and less active, less and less of them, harder to get to, those of us who live a bit more remotely. Maker Morning, you can connect with people, and all of a sudden you've got people in your own community. We did 12 of these this year, which is amazing. And it's funny, actually, when I was counting them up and I counted 12, I think we actually did 24 because I meant to double that. So it's actually 24 because we did 2 every month. And more people are scheduling them and hosting them, which is awesome. We do a check-in. We go around and find out what everybody's working on, where they're located, and ask questions of one another. The Wool Circle, I was tapped out. I talked about this a little bit already. Rebecca reached out with this very humble, in Rebecca's fashion, very lovely email and said, I know we've been friends for a long time, and I don't know if there's an opportunity for a conversation here, but I'd really like to do more in the community. Is there a chance? And I just was like, this is a door and I need to go through it. And so we got together a couple of times on Zoom over the summer, because of course she's in Nunavut in northern Canada in Rankin Inlet. And we had a conversation over the course of a couple of meetings while the kids were otherwise engaged, and Jared was home and able to look after her kids. And we were able to talk about what it would look like if she came on to Woolen Spinning as part of the team in a formal way. And that's been really awesome. So in the fall, she delved into her sampling process. She's been answering questions. And the last Wool Circle that was just yesterday, you guys got the spotlight, and she spotlighted you and shared your sampling process, which was really fun. Again, it's an opportunity to build community and for those who are interested in diving deeper into their process and finding meaning in their making. And it's been incredibly life-giving, even for me. So what were some of the biggest challenges this year? So for me, personally, I'm going to speak from a personal perspective for a minute. For me, the biggest thing has been trying to find a sense of balance. We have made so many changes in our family since I'm going to say since the summer of 2019. It's just been a constant hamster wheel, but not in a bad way, of just making changes and trying to figure out what we want our home life to look like and what we want our child's childhood to look like. So one of the main reasons of having to find that new sense of balance is that we made a major change last school year. So this is our second year doing this, where the kids went into a hybrid school program. So that means, for those who aren't aware, my kids are partially homeschooled now. So they go to school 2 days a week. They have teachers, they go to class, they go with other kids, they have a normal, quote unquote, school experience. And then on Wednesdays they have a tutorial. And so they'll go to school for a few hours and work on stuff. And then Thursdays and Fridays, they're home and they're doing their schoolwork at home. So their teachers assign everything and then they bring their work home. So my work week for Woolen Spinning went from about 30 hours a week-ish. So if the kids were at school for about 6 hours a day, I had about 5 hours. So between 25 and 30 hours a week, down to less than 12 Mondays and Tuesdays. And so hence the limitations with time zones and being able to sort of move things around and host things at different times. And that's hence the reason for needing to change some of these things. So for those who are new to the community, that's the primary reason for all these changes the last year. And the other big thing that I realized was there are certain things like website maintenance and building of websites I just can't do because I don't have the time. And so I have hired somebody, and some of that stuff you will start to see changes in the new year. And that was a big like aha moment for me when I realized I can't do this. And what really empowered me to reach out and contact somebody about that stuff was having Rebecca reach out to me and say, hey. So like I said, a door was opened and I leapt through it. So thanks you guys for listening, and thank you for going through all of this with me. I didn't want to make it too long, but I wanted to spend a few minutes just acknowledging where we've been and how the year went in general. I think sometimes we get really caught up in just more knitting, more yarn, more spinning, and that's really awesome. It's fantastic, but I need a chance to share with you guys what's going on behind the scenes sometimes, and thank you for giving me the platform to be able to do that. Lisa says this mixed model of homeschooling seems really cool. It is the best of both worlds. It means that my kids get to experience a typical classroom with all of the typical great things that happen in a classroom, as well as the challenging things that happen in the classroom. And then they get to do their work at home. My son is just like me. He needs a lot of one-on-one instruction and quiet time to learn. He's not the kind of kid that does well in a busy classroom. He just completely gets lost. And he has gone from a emerging. So for those who know the way that they do elementary sort of stuff, it's emerging, developing, proficient, and what's the top one? I can't remember the fourth one. It's the top one. Anyways, he's gone from emerging, which is sort of considered the bottom, to a proficient, if not extending, that's the word I'm looking for, extending learner. He's extending in math and science, and he was emerging 2 years ago, where he was barely getting by, barely able to read the work that was being given to him, and he was just getting lost. And he wasn't acting out, and he wasn't he was that kid that was going to drop through, that was just going to get lost, and it was already happening, and we could see the writing on the wall. And I've always needed a lot more like one-on-one. I need that time to dissect and really get into things, and I could see that he was just exactly the same. He was a reluctant reader. And one of those tea towels was for his literacy tutor. She's an Orton Gillingham tutor for those who that means something. And he's been with her now for 3.5, almost 4 years. And I really credit a lot of this to her because when I would come to her with ideas, she would tell me right straight up, like, yes, that's a great idea. Or no, I don't think that's going to work for James. This is why. And so, yeah, it's been a journey. And I have to say, as yes, it's been a journey. It's been amazing. So if anybody wants to talk about any of that stuff, please don't hesitate to reach out. I think it's really hard to support our boys, especially in school, in busy classrooms. And I think the teachers do amazing work, and I think that they do their best. And James was just like me. He was going to fall through the cracks. And I wonder sometimes what would have happened if I had that little bit more support. And my mom did so much to support, and I had great teachers, but I wonder, just a little bit more what would have happened. I just wonder, So, all right, let's move on. Yeah, thank you, Diane. She says, I'm so glad you two made the switch for your kids. And, to be honest with you, it was people like Diane that were super supportive in the community that were like, yes, I hear you. I see you. I hear your struggles. We were there. It'll be the best decision that you ever make, and they're not wrong. There are, just before we move on, there are moments in our lives where, how you look back, and I know I'm young, and there are people in this community who I'm talking to right now who are quite a bit older than me and have so much life experience to share. But I know that there are, when you look back, there's those few moments in your life that literally changed the course of your life. So like one of them would be, say, getting married. Another one might be having kids. these changes that we've made over the last 2 years for our family, they're that pivotal. And Mike and I have already talked about how much they've changed our home life. They've changed our children. My son, James especially, he was so down-regulated 2 years ago. He was flat as a pancake. He walked around everywhere like this. Just all the time. He was flat. And now he is the happiest kid you've ever seen. I feel like I got my toddler back. Because he was always, everybody described him as being really super happy, and I've got him back, and that is priceless. All right, so let's move on before I get emotional. And you know, honestly, you guys, I couldn't do this without your support. I couldn't have done some of these changes and still be podcasting and still be doing all this stuff and still be sitting here at the end of 2022 without your support. So a lot of this is you guys being here and standing by me as well, and supporting Rebecca coming on. Eva says, your boy sounds so much like mine. He refused to write 2 years ago. He could read a bit, but didn't like it. Now he is on secondary school and one of the top kids in his class. We were just lucky. That's amazing, Eva. I think a lot of it too, it's what's going on at home, you know, and can you pick up some of that slack? Can you know, keep your kids attached to you? Can you hang on to them? Can they hang on to themselves when they're away from you? A great book for anybody looking for some resources is Hold On to Your Kids by Gordon Neufeld and Gabor Mate. Highly recommend. That book started the ball rolling for us and empowered us to start asking questions, recognizing there was something wrong. So yeah, he just happened to end up in a school where he feels at home. That's amazing, Eva. Yeah, we're getting emotional for you too. So happy. Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate that. Some of you guys have been here. Like, you've seen me evolve and change over, like, Nora's turning 8 now. So no, she's turning 9. And I started podcasting when she was only a few months old. So like, we're coming up on 9 years. 9 years. And you guys have seen it all. So I appreciate you guys being here. All right, let's do community participation because it is huge. Okay. Nicole says, I've heard Gabor in person 3 times and he is so wonderful. So I actually have a friend. For those who don't know who Gabor Mate is, he's an author, he's a physician. His specialty is in trauma and addictions. He worked here in Vancouver on the Downtown East Side, which is the poorest neighborhood in Canada, maybe even North America. And for many, many years. His new book, The Myth of Normal, I'm just finishing it. It is phenomenal. But one of my dear friends actually works with him in compassionate inquiry, which is what he does. And oh my goodness, she's one of the most amazing people I've ever met. So highly recommend checking out Gabor's work. And if you are interested in trauma and addictions, his book, In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, is life-changing. If you have anybody in your life that struggles with addiction or backgrounds in trauma, it doesn't have to be capital T trauma. It can be tiny traumas, all those little things that go unacknowledged. Amazing book. So definitely check out The Myth of Normal, When the Body Says No, Scattered Minds, which is about ADHD and ADD, and In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, and me and Mike's parenting Bible, which is Hold On to Your Kids, which is co-written with Gordon Neufeld. And if you're interested in more parenting stuff, check out the Neufeld Institute. It's I think it's neufeldinstitute.ca or .com. It's located here in Vancouver. It's a physical place, but all of their stuff is available online, and it's incredible. All right, let's go on to community participation. This is huge. I wanted to really do a year-end celebration of you guys. That is why we're here. We are here to support one another in peer-led learning, to find meaning in our making, and to share what we can do with yarn, which is infinite and amazing. So let's get started. Breed and color studies. I said that we would come back to this. So I had put a call out on the Slack channel for people to share. Oh, it started snowing again. Sorry. It started snowing again. Bummer. I put a call out on the Slack channel for people who'd finished their breeding color to please share. I'm not sure everybody saw it, but we do have some pretty incredible spins. So thank you again to Katrina for supporting this year and for doing this for us. It's really been incredible. So this is from Suzanne. I just love all this yarn. This is incredible. I finished all of my breeding colors Study Hill Radnor to close out the year. All of the yarn ended up being 3-ply, DK weight, from left to right, fractal from the red-orange braid, spun from the red-orange bat, and then plied it the same, and then spun from the blue-green bat and plied it as the same, and then chain plied, which is right up here, chain plied the blue-green braid. I see a sip of water. And then the bottoms here, right here, I'll figure it out eventually. Right here are just little bits that were left over and they were chain plied and they are gorgeous. I love that fractal. I have to admit that one's my favorite. I love how you can see the movement of color through it. This is from Christine. Look at all of this yarn. Final washed and finished breeding color yarns. I enjoyed this and now have to think of something to knit the yarn into, maybe a Musselburgh hat. The photo of the finished yarns, I'm not going to read out all of the N, 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 and N-E. You guys can look at that on your own. She has posted it on Ravelry as well, and so you can have a look at this. But the photo is a page from my notebook. Other photo is, and then she had another photo that has like all of that written out, like how she broke it all down and how she created all of these colorways and all these colors. So if you want to know more about her process, please check that out. The grist, and she got good grist. Just beautiful yarns. Yeah. Oh, Becca, go get some sleep. Headed to bed. This is from Rebecca. So I didn't include a write-up or anything, but these are all of Rebecca's yarns. So this is Rebecca of the Wool Circle, who hosts that and is my partner in crime now. These are all of her yarns that she spun, and I decided to do a big collage in the end. I was going to try to do one or two, and I was going to try to put them all together, and I just did a big collage. So these are all of her breeding color study yarns. She has a 4th pair of socks that are out of just the red that she spun. So just like these blue ones right up top here, one are chain plied and one is a fractal, I think. She has the same. You can see the yarn over there at the very, very end, the very other end of the slideshow here. That yarn is going to be another pair of socks, but they're not quite done now. So Christine's thinking about knitting the whole thing, the whole lot, so all of these yarns into a scarf from top to bottom. That's a cool idea, Christine. What a great idea. So this is all of Rebecca's stuff, just amazing. I love those Susarian socks in the middle here. I think they're fantastic. And actually, I have to admit, my most favorite that she did was the blended socks there next to the Susarian. They're right in the middle of the screen. I just think those are beautiful. This was my finished study. So this was my finished overshot scarf, which is the subject of this month's Spinning Pearls vlog, which is available on Patreon. And I talk about the process and what I did and how I spun everything. And yeah, this has been a 4-month study. I think I had to spread out the content. There was just getting to be way too much. Originally, it was supposed to be like October and November, and it's ended up being October, November, December, and then it's actually going to probably go into January, because I didn't get a chance to talk about this one here, which is the blues and the greens. So I have a second scarf that I haven't shared. This one is woven Trompez Rit, for those who don't know what that means. The other one is woven in rose fashion, for those who know what that means. Don't worry if you don't, but those are all of my yarns. So the sock color study, Rebecca's been hosting this all year, and it's just been an incredible opportunity for people to work on socks and celebrate socks and so on and so forth. We're going to keep it going for those who are interested. I maybe won't, and I'll leave it in the Slack channel, and we'll leave it on the Ravelry group. But if there isn't a lot of participation, we'll put it to bed for us for a short period of time. So it's up to you guys how active you want to be, and then whether it stays going or not. But I know socks and color are a big source of inspiration and conversation for many of you. So this is from Philippe, et voila, we have sock yarns. So I just think this yarn is beautiful. I love it so much. Oh shoot, sorry you guys. I love it so much. I thought he did a beautiful job, and I loved that he showed a photo of the braid next to the yarn so that you could really see what it looks like. Incredible. Incroyable. And this is from Rebecca. So these are those blue socks that I was just talking about. So I finished these back in November, but it took me a while to get pictures. I have two observations about the color. The first, in the fractal, I think the medium-sized stripes are what stand out the most. These stripes are about the same size as the stripes in the chain-plied sock. So putting them side by side as below emphasizes this effect. I find this is often, but not always, the case with fractal socks. The medium length striping is most visible. Do you find this also to be the case? Or do you find this to be the case also? Second, the fractal seems to have more of a green cast to it, while the chain plied sock, the eye is more drawn to the bright saturated blue. I would agree. It's a good illustration of how our eyes can be drawn to the primaries and to the brights. It seems that mixing the colors more allowed the teal hues, which take up more space than the blue, to take over. Yes, I would agree. Shall I finish the red socks before the end of December, before the end of the year? Doubtful. So that was the red pair that I was talking about. So the other thing I wanted to mention too was you've taken the white in that fractal and you've put it through the entire sock, because that white fiber is no longer on its own and left. As you've spun it, you've actually put it in and mixed it as you've been plying, as you've been spinning your fractal. And these are 3-ply. The fractal is a 3-ply, as is the chain ply, obviously, because it's chain plied. And I think partially what happens is that because you've got the white going through the whole thing, it adds a tint to the entire sock rather than just stripes of white in specific places. And if you notice in the chain ply, the white butts up right against that really, really bright, bright, bright blue that Katrina had. And so it makes that even brighter. Whereas in the sock that's the fractal, the white gets put through the entire thing, and it makes the whole sock more of a tint rather than just having stripes of white. So I think it's that lightening and brightening that white always adds. And we'll talk about that more in January in our year of color. Oh, Jackie has to get to work. Bummer. Have a lovely Christmas period, everyone. Looking forward to watching back later to see what everyone's been up to. So these are bobbin photos. We always see tons of bobbin photos when we're sharing in the Ravelry group and on the Slack channel. And I thought, you know what? This is an opportunity to celebrate those beautiful photos of our spinning when it's in progress. So this is from Rebecca. I sat there after Maker Morning and made myself finish the first half of the 2-ply part of cable plying. I think I'm going to have a lot of yardage. So this is her sock blend that she talked about on the Wool Circle, I think 2 episodes ago. I feel like it was episode 81, but I might be wrong. If anybody knows off the top of their head, if they could pop it into the chat. And this is her Kiviot. So it's her Kiviot blend that she's doing a cabled sock yarn with. And on the last episode yesterday of the Wool Circle, she talked about, on episode 82, she talked about this. It's finished now and it is incredible. This is from Trudy. She loves how this colorway is spinning up. It is beautiful. And she's actually finished all of her bobbins now because this was a little while ago. This is from Liz. Beautiful spin. I love the color of your wheel, Liz. I finally got the first color of week 1 of the Advent done. Work has been crazy busy, so I haven't had a ton of spinning time. And of course, I've been trying to finish up some Christmas knitting projects, of course. Yeah, the Kiviot sock blend felt amazing. Right, Kelly? Oh, worth every penny. That's Rebecca's spin. This is from Suzanne. I was given about 10 pounds of stash when I got my matchless, part of which included a few art bats. I've never spun from one before. This one is 2.5 ounces and pretty compacted. It's Angelina, bamboo, merino, and silk. I think I'm going to ply it with a white strand of merino to balance it out. And so far it's been fun to spin. Beautiful spinning, Suzanne. And very fine. You don't have to spin art bats fine. You can spin them chunky and thick and thin, and you can coarse spin them. You can do all sorts of things, but your spinning here is beautiful. This is from Nicole. I loved these colors. Beautiful. Looking for some pattern recommendations. With this spin, I thought I would make my own gradient from 3 different packs of fiber, all from Hello Yarn Club coordinates. I split the fibers in half and spun for the body of a sweater, then split the remaining fibers in half again and spun for each sleeve. So now I'm kind of stuck on how to go about picking a pattern. Do I do a top-down sweater or a cardigan? I would love any ideas. Pressed flowers. I'm going to tell everybody to do pressed flowers from now on. But if anybody has any ideas, please say. But I was thinking pressed flowers. Just find a main color to really set these colors off. It would be incredible. All right, general makes. This is sort of all sorts of different stuff that you guys are working on. This is from Laura. Isn't this amazing? Last spring, I met a Ukrainian refugee, a very talented felting artist. I've visited her home many times and I got very inspired by her wall painting. I decided to get some green wool, card a nice mix, and spin singles to make a shawl for her for Christmas. Can you see the felted turtle in the first pic? Isn't it just wonderful? She made it and I bought one. Isn't that incredible? The little turtle is up there in the first photo. Yeah, that's what she makes. Incredible. I love these colors, and the shawl, Laura, is just incredible. This is from Sarah. I finished a whole project from concept to finished item in 5 days. Yes, it's a small project, but I've been working on nothing but big projects, so it's fantastic to have something finished. I made the roll eggs in my new blending board on Saturday, and by Monday I was plying and setting the yarn. Today, Tuesday, I knit the hat, and the project came out exactly how I thought it would. I'm so excited, plus we have some cold for Florida weather, low 60s, and later this week so I can actually wear my new hat. It's amazing, Sarah. Beautiful work. This is from Suzanne. So remember last time I shared with you the 2 skeins of yarn, commercial, the commercial yarn that was hand dyed, and then the fiber, and then she'd done the fractal, and then she was just going to work on the 3rd skein. So now we've got it all done. So this is from Suzanne. Beautiful photo, by the way, Suzanne. I finished the 2nd skein in my color exploration. I might tighten up the ply as smidge. This one I chain plied and I don't love it. I prefer the marling of the traditional 3-ply all the way to the left. So that's the one over here. I don't know if I'm still going to try to use them together in a project. Despite being the same colorway, they all feel very different. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I was surprised by the results with both the traditional and the chain ply, and I think my next skein will be a fractal from a gradient braid. Isn't this amazing though? Beautiful. Yeah, Nicole says, I do love pressed flowers. Yeah, it's a lot of knitting, but oh my goodness, your yarn would be perfect for it, Nicole. Yeah, the browns, I know, right, Lisa? These 2 hand spun skeins are beautiful. Like the commercial indie dyed yarn, like it's not, it's lovely, it's nice, but these 2 are showstoppers. I think, Suzanne, you could do something really beautiful with all 3 of those skeins, even if you don't use them together. So pretty. This is from Tazzy. She's just always working on such amazing stuff. So this is the sidewalk chalk yarn, all spun up and off to its bath. That's what she's calling this yarn because it's grays mixed with these hits of color that looks like sidewalk chalk. It's my first time actually getting a mostly consistent 3-ply Aran weight. My default yarn is a 3-ply DK. So I really, really had to concentrate on this one. And I'm so happy with the color and the hand of it. A gentler twist angle than I normally do for sure, but I think it really worked out. This is gorgeous, gorgeous, Taziana, gorgeous. And it was fun to hear a little bit about it when she's talked about it in the past on queries. This is from Crystal. She always takes gorgeous photos as well. Look at all of her spindles here. Finished spinning these singles on my supported spindles. I think I'm in love with the Hikari Handmaid's roll eggs. These were just gorgeous and lovely to spin to boot. I already wound them off into balls and should hopefully be plying them all soon. Amazing. I love all the colors. Aren't they beautiful? Yeah, and that's her, the second one in is an Allen Berry spindle, and I think she just got that one. I feel like she just did. Some of them are Woodland Handcrafts, and some of them are yarn spindles. He's a maker located in Maine. Beautiful. This is from Diana. Days 1 to 4 progress on her. This is her Advent spinning on support spindles. Today I added some pulled sari silk, chopped up a silk hanky, and Angelina for today's Advent gift. And she did this all on her blending board. Look at those roll eggs in the middle there. Aren't they incredible? Beautiful. And again, her spindles there are Volchuk Arts, which is a Russian maker, so they're closed. You can't purchase from them currently. And then the second one in is Allen Berry. I can't remember what the third one is, although I know I flicked it and had it in my hands. And the final one on the far side there is a Mirkwood. And his are amazing too. Christine says, not looking at the spindles, don't need any more spindles. I know, right? Look away, don't look at them. Lisa says those row legs are goals. Diana makes the most beautiful row legs, and they're generally all the same size and the same weight. She is so good at it. She's obviously had a lot of practice, but I mean, she's really perfected it. Beautiful work, Diana, as always. And this is from Ruth. I'm not going to read all of it because it's a lot to read, but if you want to pause here and read through what she wrote, I will read the first little bit. I spun for this sweater in the first year of Spindle Spun Summer, and I planned to knit it, finishing it in March of this year, 2022, but it had issues that kept me from wearing it. I had picked up too many stitches for the button bands based on an inaccurate gauge. The extended double layered band pulled the front of the sweater down. Excuse me. So I put it in a timeout for the summer. The sweater primed to be pulled apart is the image of the sweater hanging. The others are the reknit sweater and the headband. Amazing. Beautiful, Ruth. She always does such incredible work. So this sweater here in the bottom corner here, that's the original sweater before she ripped out the button band. And then her wearing it there is her after fixing, and it looks different, but it's really effective. It looks fantastic, Ruth. I am totally happy with the results and wear it a lot. And I love the color. The color is on point. This is from Eva. Again, I'm just going to read a little bit of this. Here is the start of what I was talking about the other day. I had pulled out of my basket, hand spun, and became this itch to grab a few skeins and just start knitting a quick sweater, quote unquote. I cast on Andrea Mowry's Metamorphic in my favorite way to do stripes in solid and semi-solid yarns. I knit 3 stripes of colors A and B, then change out A. After 5 stripes of B, I change out B, and then I knit 5 stripes in with every new color. I think that's a great idea, by the way. And in my mind, I find enough hand spun for at least 2 other Metamorphics. So let's see how quickly this really is. It's going to be slow, Eva, because you're going to end up knitting 2 more and you're going to knit 3 sweaters. However, I did find my Metamorphic did knit up like that. It was really quick, even though it's a small gauge and it seems like a lot of yarn. It's potato chip knitting. You just want to get to the next round and it keeps you going. Beautiful. She says, I trust my color scheme enough to know that it will work out, and this method keeps me from overthinking. It's very smart, very smart. You could actually do that same method for the shifty pullover. That would work really well. If you don't have enough yarn, or if you want to use up a whole bunch of stashed yarn, you could just keep changing it and repeating the mosaic pattern over and over and over again. It would work beautifully. Okay. Finally, our last leg of the show today. I know it's a long stream today, but I hope you guys are still with me and that you're willing to go on this journey with me today because it's our last stream of the year. So I had put a call out on the Slack channel as well as on the Ravelry channel for what you guys said were your most proud makes of 2022. So what were you the most proud of making this year? And this is what I got back. So this is from Sue, and I just have to, hang on. There we go. Have to press play. My favorite make this year is my Ghost in the Orchard vest. My farmer friend gave me a bag of this 32 micron Corriedale raw fleece and to have a play and see what I could make with it. And after scouring, I spun up a bouncy 3-ply yarn. And knit up this vest. The shepherdess was delighted with it and astonished that something which she had been told was only good for carpets could become such a silky, bouncy, and toothy yarn and finished garment. I have photos of the finished vest and the sheep the wool came from, along with the farmer who raised the wool. There you go. That's pretty awesome. I would be proud of that too. This is from Eve. favorite yarn, Tour de Fleece Polworth, and it ended up being her favorite project, and that's her scarf there on the stairs. Beautiful, Eve. Yeah, isn't that cool, Lisa, with the sheep? Now I have to move myself here because Rebecca has so many photos. So Rebecca says her most proud of make is the 12 pairs of socks. The 12 pairs worth of sock yarn this year. The last is still being plied. The sample is in this picture, but I fully expect it to be done before the end of the month. Sorry, the sample is not in this photo. So far, 9 pairs have become socks. Sock spinning has gone from being impossibly intimidating to being achievable and a bit of a passion. That's very similar to what happened to me when I did my year of socks, and we did all of the different sock yarn structures, and we looked at color, and we looked at, you know, cable ply and Hauser and all that stuff, and it became the sock study book that's available on Patreon, and you can access that once you join Patreon. It's part of the welcome email. It was sort of the same thing. Like it went from being this really intimidating thing to all of a sudden this is actually really fun, and this is actually kind of really enjoyable. I'm actually wearing a pair of my hand knit hand spun socks right now. I had really burned out on it, and it's funny because I've started to get the feel for it again and started to sort of feel like, oh, maybe I want to do that again. So a lot of that's from this inspiration that Rebecca has shared with us, and I'm excited to maybe delve into that in the new year and have a look at what that might look like. This is from Sherry. This is beautiful. I'm going to move myself over again just because I'm obstructing the writing. The project that I spun and wove in 2002 that I am most proud of was also the hardest for me. It was an overshot shawl for my mom. This was the first time learning on a floral loom with a talented, patient, and dedicated weaving teacher who got to know me and knew that I love to learn new things and like to be pushed. The greatest amount of time was in the warping of the loom, much more involved than my rigid heddle direct warping than I was used to doing. From calculating the amount of warp and weft needed, using a warping board, paying attention required on my part, and learning the setup on 4 shafts with 6 treadles, tying on front to back, threading back to front for a particular overshot pattern, rethreading because my attention wavered, rethreading again, fixing up tied on heddles because I messed up, learning the weaving, the lingo, fixing broken warp threads after threading, learning how to read a weaving chart, and really learning why we do things in a certain way. The hand spun I made and used was the easy part. The final project was not perfect, but the learning aspect was massive. Beautiful. Amazing, Sherry. I think you really summed it up. I couldn't have said it better myself, Sherry, and your project is gorgeous. This is from Maria. These are all the sweaters that Maria finished this year. We've shared some of them on the podcast in the past. I wanted to use more of my handspun yarns this year, and I'm happy that I have knitted 3 handspun sweaters and 1 handspun dress. I feel like if my memory serves, the dress was for her granddaughter, I think. Regardless, it's beautiful. This will be a personal record year of hand-spun sweaters. My technical spinning plans were not as successful, but it is good to have still many interesting spinning techniques in the future, isn't it? Absolutely. Lots to explore, Maria. There's never any shortage. This is from Melanie. We're almost done, you guys. What I'm proud of, I started spinning this year. I went from never even thinking I wanted to spin to taking up a spindle in February, purchasing a wheel in March, and now having completed 2 hand-spun items. The most recent is still drying from the wet blocking. So that's the sweater down there in the corner. This way. I'll get there. I'll get there. It's the sweater on the bottom there. And I think it's a weekender, but I might be wrong. And your hat, Melanie, is beautiful. Your toque. That is absolutely gorgeous. This is from Doreen. Last but not least, I completed, this is my friend Doreen who lives up on the Sunshine Coast here in British Columbia. I completed all 12 skeins of the breed study from Longway Homestead. Anna Hunter is located in Manitoba. If you don't know about Longway Homestead yet, please Google it. Anna is amazing. She started it early in the pandemic and finished it this past summer. Now what? Weave a blanket maybe? On to color now. Yes, because it's all naturally colored yarn. Amazing. Thank you so much, you guys, for sharing all that you do, for doing all that you do, for sharing your process, for your participation yesterday in the Wool Circle. I really appreciate it that you guys stepped forward and that you shared when Rebecca put that call out. Thank you for sharing in the Slack channel and for posting photos and for going into the Ravelry group and posting photos and tagging me on Instagram and tagging me in the Slack channel when you post. I really appreciate that. One quick announcement: Monday, December 26th, there will be an extra episode of the Wool Circle. It is part 1 of a 2-part series in conversation with Katrina about color. So Katrina and Rebecca are going to be talking about all things color. And in the part 1 of the Wool Circle, we thought we would offer it as a bonus episode at the end of this month to kind of kick off our year of color. I've talked about that on previous episodes, and there's going to be more information coming in early January, so do stay tuned for all of that. But the Wool Circle will be a premiere, so it will be live streamed publicly, so everybody, that includes you, will be invited. So please watch patreon.com/woolenspinning for that. The post will come up on Christmas Day on December 25th, and then you guys can click on the links, and like I said, it's going to be public and available for everybody. And it's the first part of a 2-part series. The second part will air in January for Wool Circle members. So I hope that you'll be willing to take some time on your Boxing Day Monday, that's what we call it in parts of the world, the day after Christmas, and hang out with us for half an hour. So I think that's everything. It's been a lot. It's been a very long show. I hope that you are doing really, really well wherever you are. Enjoy your winter holidays, whatever it is that you celebrate or don't celebrate. I hope that it's restful, that you get some quiet time this holiday season. And because I won't see you on Monday, I won't be talking. It'll be Rebecca talking and Katrina. I want to wish you a very, very happy, healthy, and safe New Year. So I will see you here. Oh, that was the other thing. The live stream in January is going to move back 1 p.m. I feel like I spend all day waiting to do the live stream, and it's not a really actually very nice feeling, just kind of waiting to do it. And because of time zones and everything, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock kind of worked, but we're going to do a trial in January, and we're going to move it back to 10 a.m. on Tuesday. So 10 a.m. Pacific, which makes it 1 p.m. Eastern time. And it just rolls everything back. So 10 a.m. is 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 p.m. In Europe, in the UK, 7 p.m. in mainland Europe. So I'm hoping that that's a little bit, that'll work for people. I know it's not great for those down under, but it's so hard to accommodate absolutely everybody. I just want to move it back earlier in the day and just see how it goes and see how that rolls. So as of January, the live stream on Tuesdays will be at 10 a.m. All right. Have a great week, you guys. And I hope you have a wonderful holiday and happy, 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 happy New Year. I will see you in a couple of weeks. Bye, everyone.